A former Patriots player has actually made headlines lately. Antonio Brown was spotted practicing with a high school quarterback. Helmet on and everything. He was running routes and catching passes from a high school quarterback named Peter Zamora. And is it just me, or will Antonio Brown ever go away? Antonio Brown has been trying to make this so-called comeback from the minute he got released by the Patriots. And earlier in the show, I called J.R. Smith a polarizing player. There might not be a more polarizing player in sports history than Antonio Brown. You have players and teams where it's he's immensely talented. Bring him in. He instantly makes any team better. That's the truth, though. You put Antonio Brown on a roster, that team is 50 times better from the start. Then there's the other side of he's racist. He is quite possibly medically insane. And the guy's just a head case. If you say Antonio Brown's name in a room of 50 people, you are going to spark a fierce, intense debate regardless of who you're with. And the comeback is still in the works. He's been practicing. Teams have shown some interest. But I don't think Antonio Brown will ever play another NFL snap. And that's the truth. I think from here on out, Antonio Brown will never step foot on another NFL football field. And my comparison for Antonio Brown is Hall of Fame wide receiver Terrell Owens. And my reason for that is in T.O.'s last NFL season, he caught 72 passes for just under 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns at age 37. And he would never appear in another regular season game. It wasn't because he wasn't talented. If you ever seen T.O. play, he's one of the most talented players of all time. It's because you could not get along with him. You could not win with Terrell Owens. And Antonio Brown is on pace to become the next Terrell Owens. Just put that into perspective. 72 catches, 983 yards, and 9 touchdowns at age 37. And a team decides they do not even want to touch you. That's Terrell Owens. Antonio Brown's last NFL season saw him rack up 1,300 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns. And he's unemployed right now. He's been unemployed for almost a year. That says something. How is it that someone who accumulated 15 touchdowns the last time he played a full NFL season has appeared in just one NFL game since? It says something. And I think a big factor in this is who's desperate for a receiver at this moment? It's crazy to think about that, but what team is truly desperate enough to take on Antonio Brown? You look at the teams who were interested last season or could have been interested. It's been rumored for months now that Tom Brady wants to play with Antonio Brown again. Tom Brady lobbied for the Patriots to sign him when they did, and he's been wanting to play with him ever since. Buccaneers head coach Bruce Arians has openly said, we're not signing Antonio Brown. There's not a chance. He outright called him a diva. When a head coach calls a player a diva, it's safe to say that player is not going to be suiting up on his roster. The Philadelphia Eagles were the most desperate team in terms of needing receiver production last season. We've reached a point now where they very well might have too many receivers. They traded for Marquise Goodwin. They drafted Jalen Reagor. Suddenly, guys like Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson are healthy. They still have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who they drafted last season. Suddenly, there isn't room for Antonio Brown in Philadelphia. And when you go down the list, it's just who's desperate. The Patriots are desperate. They're not bringing him back. Bill Belichick, he burned that bridge. The Eagles were historically desperate for a wide receiver last season. They passed, and now they're stocked. I don't see where Antonio Brown makes his comeback. Because in my personal opinion, there are 3 categories of teams in terms of wide receiver production. There are the teams that already have a number 1 receiver, and for them it's just not worth putting up with AB's antics for a number 2 or 3 receiver. By that I mean Atlanta, New Orleans, teams like Michael Thomas and Julio Jones, where it's just, we don't need you. Why would we sign up for all this for a number 2 receiver? Then there's the team that is rebuilding. They're not even trying to win games. Their main focus is just building a culture and building a winner. Antonio Brown should not be within 50 feet of that locker room. And my example of that is Carolina. Matt Rule is not making moves to bring in the most talented players. Matt Rule is making moves to bring in the most high character players. He drafted Derek Brown. He signed Teddy Bridgewater. It is very clear the direction he's going in. Carolina is rebuilding, and there is no doubt in my mind that Antonio Brown has absolutely no place on a rebuilding team. And then our third and final category is winning teams that don't even need him. Essentially a team like San Francisco or Kansas City, where they have very little to gain by even signing him. Like, Kansas City signs Antonio Brown. They've already got Tyreek Hill, they got Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce. And they're coming off a Super Bowl. What exactly do they gain from bringing in a head case like Antonio Brown? Nothing. So there's teams where it's just simply not worth it for them to sign Antonio Brown. Teams that are rebuilding and don't need him anyway. And then teams where it's, why fix what isn't broke? None of these 3 scenarios involve a team that needs Antonio Brown. The 49ers, why would they bring in Antonio Brown? Why would a Super Bowl contending team bring in Antonio Brown to ruin their locker room? The Kansas City Chiefs are already Super Bowl champions. They've already got a loaded offense. By adding Antonio Brown, you really can't get much better. There is only potential to trend downwards if he were to break up your locker room. And that's just how I view this whole situation. Teams do not need Antonio Brown right now. And the one team who genuinely showed interest in signing Antonio Brown was the New Orleans Saints. Sorry, I almost said Pelicans because of the NBA topic earlier. But the New Orleans Saints actually brought in Antonio Brown for a workout. And they showed genuine interest in signing him and putting him on the other side of Michael Thomas. It was a disaster. Numerous reports said Brown showed up and brought a group of friends with him to the workout, and apparently didn't take it very seriously at all. As if things couldn't possibly get worse, almost immediately after the workout concluded, Brown went on social media and called out New Orleans and said that the whole workout was just a publicity stunt. You had one team who genuinely showed interest in you. A Super Bowl contending team showed interest in you. And he almost immediately burned that bridge. He's not worth it. He cannot get out of his own way to save his life. He had an opportunity to play with Tom Brady. He messed it up. He was given an opportunity to play with Drew Brees and Michael Thomas. He screwed it up. There's no reason for a contending team to add a potential locker room cancer, and no team will take on the most controversial wide receiver, possibly in NFL history, as their second or third wideout. It's just not worth it. And no rebuilding team wants Antonio Brown anywhere near their newly built culture. Antonio Brown's done in the NFL. You can say it's sad all you want. You can say it's not. He shouldn't be out of the league, because he is, to date, a top 5 talent in terms of NFL receivers. But he's burned his bridge to the NFL, and it's the truth. Antonio Brown is never going to play another NFL game. There's no team that needs him. No one's desperate. And out of those 3 categories I rank teams in, None of them need Antonio Brown, and it is not worth it for any of them to sign Antonio Brown.